That's the reason we left the corporate world. If we wanted to work 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week, be beholden to somebody else, we would have kept our corporate jobs. We were making a lot of money.
Welcome to the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, where you get multifamily investing made real. Learn from top players in the real estate investment world as they share their secrets with you and discover proven strategies on apartment investing that actually work. To learn more about Wheelbarrow Profits, visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. Now to your hosts, Jake and Gino.
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
We're sitting next to each other today, bro.
Oh, in the house.
I'm all
in
happy
the house
here.
in Knoxville. Here we go. So today's guest is Jay Scott. Jay is a full-time real estate investor and rehabber currently living in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. He is originally from the East Coast, and until the spring of 2008, he resided in Silicon Valley, where he spent many years in management at several Fortune 500 companies. In 2008, Jay and his wife decided to leave the 80-hour work weeks and the constant business travel behind. They quit their corporate jobs, moved back east to start a family, and decided to try something new. That something new ended up being real estate. And 8 years later, they've built a successful business doing everything from flipping houses to building new construction to lending to building a rental portfolio. We like that.
We love that.
We love that. So without further ado, Jay, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Great to be here.
Doing great. So let's talk a little bit about that jump from corporate America to real estate, because that's something that I've done as well, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story.
Sure. So I was an engineer by trade, actually. I did engineering stuff, management stuff for about 15 years. Back in 2007, I was working in California, big tech company. I met my wife, and she was doing the same thing I was doing. She was traveling 3.5 weeks a month. She was working 80, 100-hour work weeks. We decided to get married, and we just said, hey, we're both getting older. If we're going to start a family, just can't have a family if you're working 100 hours a week. So we said, okay, let's do something different. We had no idea what that different was, but we kind of picked up, left California, moved back to the East Coast where both of our families are from. We got married, and we said, let's take the summer off and figure out, hey, what are we going to do? And keep in mind, this was summer of 2008. Real estate market had practically collapsed. And we were in Atlanta, and this was like the epicenter of the collapse. It was nuts. So we're sitting in my basement, our basement, in the summer of 2008. It was like 120 degrees out, and turn on the TV, and there's a flipping show on. Anybody that was watching TV back in 2008, every other channel was a flipping show. And my wife said, hey, before we get married, look, we're bored. We have nothing to do until we figure out what that next business thing is that we're going to do. Let's just flip a house just for fun. And I thought she was kidding. I mean, honestly, I'm the type of guy who I can't change a light bulb. I'm a business guy. I have an electrical engineering degree, but you don't want me getting near a light bulb. And I said, okay, if you're serious, we can go try and flip a house. So long story short, a few months later, we bought our first house. It wasn't going to be a next big thing. We weren't starting a business. We weren't looking to get into house flipping. It was just something to do for the summer before we got married. We loved it. Within a month, we bought 2 more houses. Within 3 months after that, we bought a few more. And here we are 8 years later. We've done about 200 and some houses and partnered in a couple hundred more with other people.
Nice. That just spawns hundreds of questions for me, because everyone says, when is the right time? Now is not the right time, because everyone says the market's high. Where did you get the confidence? And where did you get the will to start? Because you have no experience.
I think that actually helped us. So in our case, I think ignorance was bliss. Looking back, if I would have realized how bad the market was and how tough this business was and how little experience we had, we probably never would have started. And so it's actually really lucky and really good that we had no idea what we were getting into. And in retrospect, like you said, it's always a good time to be flipping houses. It's always a good time to be getting into real estate. The question is, are you getting into the right type of real estate? Are you picking the right niche? Are you picking the right strategy for the external conditions? So back then, when, literally there were millions of houses on the market in Atlanta. Back then, it was easy to buy. It was hard to sell, but it was really easy to buy. So we were picking up houses that these days, I mean, here we are 8 years later, we still look at some of the houses we bought back in 2008 and 9. They're now selling for $200,000. We picked them up for $30,000, $40,000.
Nice.
Wow.
These are houses that were selling for 100, 150 2 or 3 years earlier. So we were making our money literally when we were buying the houses. And yeah, they were hard to sell. But you fix them up nice, and you've got no competition from other flippers because nobody else out there is stupid enough that, like we were, to be flipping houses. And so really, like we used to say, all we need is one buyer because there's no competition for our houses. There are no other rehabbed houses. And so in parts of Atlanta, there were literally just 1 or 2 buyers, but that's all we needed.
So Jake put up a meme this morning. He said in 2008 was the best time to buy real estate. The next best time is now. So I think that speaks to what you're saying. Why real estate for you? I mean, what led you to real estate other than the fact that you said you had nothing to do? What did you see down the road about real estate?
So a couple of the things that we really loved about real estate, we were looking for something to do that would allow us to raise a family. That's the reason we left the corporate world. If we wanted to work 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week, be beholden to somebody else, we would have kept our corporate jobs. We were making a lot of money. But the goal for us, it wasn't the money. It turns out that the money in real estate's great. But the real goal at the time was freedom. So we were looking for a business. We were looking for something to do that would allow us to work essentially on our schedule, to take our kids with us wherever we went, to allow us to teach our kids how to run a business and how to invest and basically how to grow up in a way that they could be successful without having to go through the same burdens we did, having to work 100 hours a week and be beholden to somebody else. So for us, it really was about the freedom, and real estate, it's got the best of both worlds. It provides that freedom, but if you do it right, it also provides the income.
Like that.
Me too.
What's your investment focus now? What are you focused on buying now?
So we're known, my wife and I are known for being house flippers, but we have very much branched out from that over the last couple of years. I was saying earlier that the key to real estate is it's always a good time to be doing real estate. You just need to look at the external conditions to determine what the right niche and the right strategy is. So over the years, we've modified our strategy. We've gone into different niches as the markets have changed. So we still flip houses. These days, we do a lot more partnerships. Finding houses is tough these days. Like I said, back in 2008, finding houses was simple. Go on the MLS and just buy the first 100 you see. Selling them was really tough. These days, selling them is really tough, or selling them is really easy, but finding them is really tough. So these days, I partner with some people that are really, really good at finding houses. That helps us keep our pipeline filled. It helps us allow us to do the number of deals we want to do. So today we're doing a lot of the same stuff, but our approach to it's different. We partner. We do a lot of lending. We do some equity partnerships. We've started doing a lot of ground up builds. Used to be that you can find paint and carpet type projects, those easy projects where you put in $10,000, $15,000 and call it a day, and you can sell those all day. These days, you've got 1,000 guys fighting for those same deals. So you got to go into the tougher flips. You have to go into the flips that require foundation work, or the flips that require an addition or tear down and rebuild. So we've been going into the bigger stuff. So we've been doing a lot of additions. We've been doing a lot of new builds. And then we've been partnering with a lot of other investors who are good at finding deals.
Jay, I want to backtrack just 1 second. I attribute a lot of my success to coaching and to education. Where have you found education and coaching? How have you found that value, and have you used it?
Sure. I think anybody that stops learning is going to stop growing. And when you stop growing, your business is going to stop growing. I know a lot of people who get complacent and say, okay, I'm happy where I am, and I'm happy to just keep coasting. The thing is, you're not going to keep coasting. The market's going to catch up to you. Competition's going to catch up to you. There's always something that's going to catch up to you. So just to stay on your same trajectory, just to plateau, you need to keep learning and you need to keep growing. So I'm a huge fan of education. The nice thing about real estate these days is there's tons of opportunity for education. I mean, you have the traditional, you have books, and you have like going to RIA meetings, but you also have online. You have some great mentors out there that you can take advantage of. There's some great coaching groups out there. And for me, the key is ensuring that whatever you do to learn and to grow, that you continue to push yourself. And so in my experience, the best way to grow is to find people that are smarter than I am, that have been where I want to be, and basically latch onto them and let them pull me along. I like to say I learned a lot on my own in this business, but if it weren't for the people that I associated with that were smarter than I was, that had the experience I had or that I wanted to have, there's no way I could have been successful. So I would tell anybody out there, look, learn the basics first, pick up a good book, go online. I mean, you can learn the basics in a couple weeks, but then find somebody that is doing what you want to do, that's had the success you want to have, and latch on. So whether it be paying a coach, whether it be finding another investor that you can donate your time and volunteer so you can watch them work, whatever it is, find somebody that's better than you. Too many people want to find a partner and they say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. That guy doesn't know what he's doing. We're going to make a great partnership. No, that's not a great partnership. You want to find somebody that's better than you. That's a great partnership. Mm-hmm. And you need to be able to provide the value to that person so that's a good partnership for him or her as well. And that can be in terms of money, that can be in terms of time, that can be in terms of other experience. I'm an engineer by trade. I found people that they have no reason to give me their time and effort and knowledge, except that I can help them in other aspects of their life other than real estate. So oftentimes take those other assets that you have, non-real estate assets. You're a great web developer. Go find a real estate investor who needs web development services and say, hey, I'll build a website for you if you let me tag along on your next 3 projects or something like that. So whether it's paying somebody, whether it's bartering with somebody, always find somebody who's better than you and latch on, because that's how you're going to continue to grow.
I think it's a great point, and we suggest that to people a lot of times. I just don't think they take that kind of advice seriously. And you're not just saying that. You really mean what you're saying right now. We've said it a lot of times, and I think people are reluctant to do it because, I think that maybe they think it's a waste of their time or something. But you got to get the information, you got to get the knowledge, and you got to get that experience, and partnering, being a mentor, going along and just doing that with someone that's been there and done it is well worth your time.
Exactly.
Jay, I try to make the point to people they're willing to spend $150,000 on their college education, which it's well worth it. Why don't you spend $5,000 on a life coach or a business coach that's going to stay with you? And that's one-on-one. That's that you're investing in yourself. So if you think about it, you want to do real estate. If you're going to invest $50,000 into a project, why don't you spend the $5,000 on yourself first before you invest in it? And people might think that I'm being self-fulfilling because I'm a life coach, I'm a business coach, we have training programs, but that's how I learned. And that's when I finally just broke out of my shell. I said, wow, the personal development and the ability to learn from somebody who's doing multis was huge for me, because I saw what they knew, I found what they knew, and I saw my learning curve was just dramatically dropped. And you know what, at the end of the day, what's $5,000 when you're going to we talk to people that are putting $500,000 1031s into a deal. They don't even know how to analyze a market. They're going from San Francisco, they're going into Kansas City, they're seeing the cap rates are 8 and 9, but they don't know what they're investing in. So I'm thinking to myself, you want to spend $1,500 on a product that I could sell to you maybe that'll really open your eyes up? And they look so short-sighted. And I just try to convey that to people. And I've made that mistake. That's why I'm really passionate about it, because I don't want them to make the mistake. And let me tell you something, when you buy something wrong, it sticks with you forever, bro. You'll never forget it.
No going back.
It's a good learning process, but you don't want to lose $500,000 if you can avoid it by spending $1,500, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. When you have a win in real estate, you get this high, it lasts a few days, and then you move on. When you have a big loss in real estate, it sticks with you for
I think he's speaking from experience here.
We'll get into that.
How has your investment strategy changed over the last 5 years?
So for the first several years, 2008 to 2011, our business was actually pretty easy. Like I said, it was tough to sell, but it was easy to buy. We could go on the MLS and we could buy REOs, which are bank-owned foreclosures, all day. Literally, we just take a dart and say, that's the one we're buying today. It was hard to go wrong. So we became experts in bank REOs for the first several years.
Let me ask you a question. Were you buying these all cash? How are you buying these?
So we've done everything. We were lucky. We came out of the tech world, so we did the stock option thing. We had some cash. So the first deal we bought, we paid cash.
Okay.
That deal, we were stuck in that deal for about 3 years. So again, we'll get into that.
Oh, they persisted. Fantastic.
Yeah. And for a rental, being stuck in a deal isn't a bad thing. For a flip,
okay.
3 years is a long time for a flip. So we paid cash for that. After that, we said, okay, let's try something else. Let's put the risk on somebody else as well as us. And so we've kind of, on our second project, we actually used a conventional loan for a flip, which for a lot of reasons isn't a good idea. Banks don't want you using a conventional loan for a flip. We didn't tell them it was a flip. We just told them it was an investment property. They thought we were going to rent it out. That caused issues, and we can talk about that if you want. On the third project, we used what's called a portfolio loan. Portfolio lender is a small local bank that lends on local projects generally to real estate investors and other businesses, and they lend their own money. So unlike conventional loans where you have Fannie Mae or HUD saying, here are the requirements for you lending this money, a portfolio lender is lending money from their own depositors. So they can say, hey, you sound like you have a good business. You don't meet all the requirements for a conventional loan, but we're willing to take a chance on you. So portfolio lenders are great in this business. So that was the third deal we did. Fourth deal we did, we took an equity partner. Fifth deal we did, we got a private lender. So a guy who had money in his IRA, didn't know what to do with it, was making like negative money because he was losing money in the stock market back then. And I offered him 12%, and he jumped at it. And so on my first 5 deals, I mean, literally we did everything. We paid cash, we did a conventional loan, a portfolio loan, an equity partnership, and then private loan. And so by the time I got through my 5th deal, I felt like I had all the basics of financing down. Ultimately, we moved towards working a lot with private lenders. I love private lenders. A lot of people out there today who have cash sitting around in an IRA or in a bank account, they're not interested in being in the stock market because they know it's too volatile. They're not interested in having their money in a savings account and earning 0.25%. So when you can offer them 8, 10, 12% return on their money, there are a lot of people out there who are going to jump at it if you can give them some security and some assurance that you're not going to lose their money. So, I mean, the other thing with private money is you don't have to jump through the hoops you have to with a bank. You don't have to fill out applications. You don't have to go through a credit check necessarily. They can get the money to you in as quickly as it takes them to walk to the bank and wire the money to you, as opposed to a bank who's going to take 4 weeks to fund a loan. So I'm a big fan of private money. So yeah, we've kind of done, when it comes to the financing side, we've kind of done everything.
Let's touch on that IRA, because you're talking about a self-directed IRA, correct? Where people actually put money. Can you talk about that for a minute? Because that's one great way, I guess, multifamily guys should raise money, because there's how many trillions of dollars out there. It's a well-known secret that the financial institutions don't want you to know about the self-directed IRAs, because they won't have any ability to make money on that, because they make money on fees. But if you can direct your own IRA and you have that own control and earning even 8% on a debt port, and it's being secured by your real estate. So it's a pretty, I would say, safe asset, especially somebody who's done over 200 flips. They're pretty safe giving it to you and making 8%. So can you go over that a little bit?
Absolutely. And I love self-directed IRAs. I credit most of the money we've made in this business to the fact that self-directed IRAs exist, because I've done it on both sides. On the borrowing side, well, let me start with you. Let's say somebody has an IRA. Let's say they have a 401k and they've left the job, or they have some retirement funds. Let's say they have $200K in retirement funds. Generally, the traditional options are you take that money, you put it in a mutual fund, you put it in bonds, you put it in something else that's like just the market. Let's call it the market. And if anybody that has retirement funds with a traditional brokerage like Fidelity or anybody else knows that their options are pretty limited. You can put it in stocks, you can put it in bonds, you can put it in mutual funds, whatever. Not many options, and basically your money, the growth or contraction of your money is basically at the whim of the market. And unless you're an expert at picking stocks, basically you're just riding that wave. If the market goes up, your retirement funds go up. If the market goes down, your retirement funds go down. Self-directed IRA gives you more options. It basically says, this is your money. You can invest it in whatever you want. So you take your money, you move it from a Fidelity, and you move it into what's called a self-directed IRA custodian. There's a lot of them out there. And they let you invest your money in whatever you want. If you want to invest in stocks and bonds and mutual funds, you're welcome to do that. But if you want to invest that money in lending to a real estate developer, if you want to invest your money in gold, if you want to invest your money in your cousin who is buying a Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise, you can do that. Basically, you can invest your money in whatever you want. Certainly, there are limitations. You can't use that money to benefit yourself directly. You can't invest it in your own deals, but you can invest it in other people's deals to earn a return. I have a lot of money in my self-directed IRA, and I've been earning between 12 and 15% for the last 5 years on my IRA. My wife, the same way. We lend to other investors that we work with, that we know. We can analyze their deals. We know enough to say, hey, that looks like a good deal. And like you said, there's always the security. You get the first lien on the property. So if anything goes wrong, you have the property as a security. But you can earn a good bit more than the 6, 7, 8% you might be earning in the stock market by lending to other people. On the borrowing side, yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say, to the point that you're making, you can put money in your own deal if you're not actively managing that. If you're going to be involved, correct, you can do that. Though I just didn't want people to shy away.
I apologize. Yes, I'm thinking from the flipping aspect.
Gotcha. Okay.
You can certainly put money in a deal. And let me completely restate that because I'm sorry. Yeah, the money has to benefit your IRA.
Yes.
So that means any money that you put into one of your own deals. Couple things, and I'm sure you know this, but this is for your listeners. Right. One, you can't actively manage that deal.
Yep.
You can't, because basically you contributing your time is you benefiting your IRA. The rules are you can't benefit your IRA can't benefit you. So you can't put your time or money into an IRA deal, and you can't use your IRA money for a personal deal. But you can use your IRA money to invest in a deal that you don't actively manage. You can make a ton of money. That rolls back into your IRA. That rolls back into your retirement. So basically, your retirement money can build and grow on itself. So that when you retire or when you take that money out in some other way, that money has grown exponentially. And we've actually taken a good bit of our IRA money and invested in rental properties that were just growing. We can't live in those properties. We can't make personal use of those properties. We can't spend a lot of time actually renovating or doing anything to those properties. But that money is growing, and it's growing for me because that's my money.
That's right.
It's a little different on the flipping side. On the flipping side, because everything is very actively managed, I can't use my own money to flip houses. There are some ways that it can be done, but it's actually really tough.
A lot of rules at the end of the day. You got to partner with someone that knows what they're doing to make sure you're compliant.
Absolutely. If you're doing passive investing, if you're buying rentals, if you're buying multis, if any type of buy and hold, whether it be on the residential or the commercial side, leverage your IRA. That's fantastic because that's the cheapest money you're ever going to get. Not only is it cheap money, but you're paying dividends to yourself. So yes, certainly. I apologize that.
No. It's just there's a lot of rules there, so I just wanted to make sure that we're given as true of a picture as we can.
I would tell everybody, I started out years ago, I would look at a company called Equity Trust because like you said, there's voided transactions. You can't buy coins. You can't buy collectibles. Certain things you can't do. The 3 or 4 transactions, and it can't self-dealing is what we're talking about. So go to Equity Trust. And listen, I just want to bring it up because Jay's been using this strategy for a long time. People say there's no money. This is a great way to find money. So like I said, go to Equity Trust, check that website out. They've got a ton of information on there. But I mean, it's a great way to tackle money. Now, this question I want to ask because my daughter, 10-year-old, her favorite show on TV is Flipping Vegas, believe it or not. She loves flipping. I mean, she loves real estate. I mean, I've got 6 kids.
Which
they all like the 10-year-old. They all like something different, right? But she loves the show, and she doesn't like the way they husband and wife interact, but hey, that's part of TV. And she's always like, why is he always yelling at her? I'm like, first of all, it's a stressful thing going on. And I want to know for myself, how long is your typical flip? I mean, how much time do you basically have? Because I see what they do. They're ripping down houses, like you said, adding additions. But what's the average flip take, and how much money do you normally make on an average flip?
Sure. So the market's going to determine a lot of this. So for our first 50, 60, 70 flips between 2008, 2013, most of our projects were we were doing full cosmetic renovations. So we'd replace the floors, we'd paint the walls, we'd replace the cabinets, countertops, all the doorknobs, all the light fixtures, all the plumbing fixtures. And then we would also do things like replace the HVAC, replace the roof. So just general mechanical stuff, and then full cosmetic.
Sounds like my house.
Yeah, and so these are the types of flips that investors love because there's not a ton of risk, but you get into enough with like replacing the HVAC or replacing the roof or doing some siding repair that the brand new guys aren't always comfortable doing it. So sometimes they'll pass up. So these were our bread and butter type flips for the first 5 years. Our purchase to sale time frame was about 100 days. So we'd buy the property on day one. We'd start working on it on day two. We'd be done working on it by about day 55 or 60, so about 1.5, 2 months. And then we'd put it on the market and get it sold and closed within about 5 weeks.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Who was the pit bull, you or your wife?
So actually neither of us.
Somebody's managing these contractors.
Yeah, so we're big fans of outsourcing a lot. We're very big fans of creating systems and processes in our business. And part of that was that in every market that we worked, we've had project managers.
Gotcha.
So we have somebody whose day-to-day job it is to go project to project, manage the contractors, make sure things are staying on track. If they're not staying on track, get them back on track. Call me in or call my wife in when there's an issue. And so our project managers have generally been our pit bulls. That said, if it comes down to me or my wife, there's no question. You don't want to deal with my wife if something.
Awesome. That is awesome. Send her in. You're going to get chewed out, pal.
I'm the good cop.
There you go.
So yeah, typical project, we'd be looking at 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 7 weeks for the renovations, a week to sell it, and then a month to get it closed. That was our first 5 years.
And how much profit on each of those you think on average?
So we averaged 21% of the resale value across all of our projects. So if we bought a house for 100 and we sold it for 200, we were making about $40,000. So take 21% of that whatever that resale number was, that was our average profit. We went into every deal really, really conservatively. Every tip I give basically boils down to be conservative in this business. And so we would go in with the goal of hitting 15% on every deal. And unlike a lot of investors who go in starry-eyed and think everything's going to go great, and they say, everything's going to be perfect, I'm going to get more than 15%, and then they get 10%. We went in the other way. We said everything's going to go wrong. We're planning for everything to go wrong. Hopefully we'll make 15%. And then because we planned for everything to go wrong, we actually averaged closer to 20. So that was our average over the first couple hundred deals.
How many flips do you have going on average currently? Do you manage?
So it's a little tough to say these days because we do a lot of partnerships. So we have deals that we are more involved in. So we have deals where we actually have our project manager on site and involved in the deal, and we're hiring the contractors, and I know what's going on day to day. And then a lot of our deals these days, we have other investors that we're working with where we put in some money, we help them through the deal, we either mentor them or they might have experience, and I have our project manager jump off and help them on that deal occasionally. I might be involved in that project. I might know what's going on in that project once a week, once every 2 weeks. So I don't like to call those my projects because somebody else is doing the bulk of the work. I want to give them credit. But at any given time, we probably have 6, 7, 8 different projects that we're involved in, whether it be our own project or whether we're a money partner or an equity partner. I'm sorry, a money partner or a debt partner, or just any other type of relationship with the investor. So 6, 7, 8 at a time.
So this is one of Jake's favorite questions because I know he's a systems guy. How have you built your systems over the last few years to deal with this? It's like a burgeoning, huge business going on because you got stuff going on, people running all over the place, different projects you have to manage.
Yeah. So my wife and I are huge on systems. We're huge on processes. Our general rule of thumb is if we're going to have to do something more than 2 times, we figure out how to systematize it. And to systematize something, basically, there's a couple things. One, documentation. There's very, very little we do in our business that's not really well documented. That allows us to, if we have to, here's a perfect example. This was a minor thing, but this saved me so much time. I remember when we first started flipping houses, we spent a ridiculous amount of time on the phone with utility companies. For some reason in Atlanta, you'd call up the electric company to get electric service transferred over into your name. It would be a 3-hour process. I'm not kidding. Literally 3 hours between being on hold, having somebody.
That's just service companies in general.
It's just ridiculous. And by the third house, when I had literally spent dozens of hours on the phone just moving utility service into my name, I said, I'm never doing this again. So
Good
I
for
wrote
you,
down.
man. That's great.
Yeah. So I wrote down the name of all the big utility companies, their phone numbers, my social security number, my address, all the pertinent information so that somebody could literally, because they required you to call yourself. And I literally had my project manager call and impersonate me. And they'd say, okay, what's your mother's maiden name? He knew my mother's maiden name. What's your social security number? And he acted like he was me. And literally that saved me 2, 3, 4 hours per project. And when you're
such a life suck waste of time.
Exactly. Other stuff like when we were first starting out, and this was unethical, and I wouldn't tell people to do this these days, but it worked for us.
Man, define unethical. Let's hear it first.
We would get a property under contract, and if you want to see the property, you basically have to go in and call the other agent. We weren't licensed at that time. This was like the first couple properties, and you'd have to call the listing agent and say, "Hey, I want to bring a contractor through to measure the property." And these were all foreclosures. Nobody was living there, and so we'd have to bother the listing agent 2 or 3 times before closing to get our contractors in there, and they'd get annoyed. So we would make a point we'd kind of slip a key out, and my project manager would run to Home Depot and make a copy of the key. The first time we were in the house, we'd come back, we'd hand the listing agent the key back, and we had a copy. And so at that point, we could get into the house. Listing agent didn't care; they didn't want to know we had a copy.
Yeah.
But it was saving them time. So things like that. Basically, and that was the reason we got licensed. That's the reason my wife and I got licensed, because it allowed us to make our business more efficient. We could walk into a house without having to call the listing agent. We could send an offer to the listing agent without us having our own agent. We could tell the listing agent, look, this is what we're going to do on this property. Here's our offer. If you accept it, you never have to go back to this property again. We're licensed, so we can let ourselves into the property. We can let our contractors into the property. At closing, we're going to take your lockbox off the door. We're going to grab your key. We're going to grab your sign. We'll drive it to closing and drop it off at closing. Or if you don't want to come to closing, we'll go to closing. We'll get your check, and we'll drop your key, your sign, and your check off at your office that afternoon.
They're loving you at that point.
Yeah.
And they were loving us. And because we were licensed, we could legally do all that. They didn't have to worry about getting in trouble with their broker. And so the agents we were dealing with, the REO listing agents we were dealing with, they realized that if they're working with us, their job is about a quarter of what it is if they're working with any other buyer. And back then, agents had a lot of discretion over who was getting the deals. Mm-hmm. Things weren't as tightly regulated as they are today. And so we were getting a lot of great deals that way because the agents knew working with us, there were a lot of benefits.
Do you recommend flippers or even buy and holders to get their license?
So 10 years ago, I would have said yes. These days, I'll still say probably. Mm-hmm. There's some benefits and drawbacks. If you're going to be doing more than 1 or 2 a year, I definitely say yes. It's funny. A lot of people think that if you ask me why I recommend getting the license, a lot of people assume it's because, it means that you're going to make extra money. When you buy, you don't have to pay a commission. When you sell, or when you buy, you get a commission. When you sell, you don't have to pay a commission. And while that's a nice little benefit, for me, it's all about control in this business. And having your license gives you control. Mm-hmm. One, it means you can do anything you want without having to have your own agent. You can let yourself into a house. You can see houses. You can talk. You're legally allowed to talk to the seller and to the listing agent. You can talk to the appraisers. You can talk to the inspectors. You can talk to the loan officers. When you're not licensed, you have to let your agent do all those things. And when your agent calls you up and says, yeah, I talked to the loan officer, there's a problem with the loan, it's going to get done in a couple of days, we just need a couple of extra days. One, you don't know if your agent's lying to you just to keep the deal moving along. Or maybe your agent just didn't ask the hard questions. Mm-hmm. I like to know that if there's a problem with my buyer's loan, I can call the buyer's loan officer as the seller's agent, because I'm my own agent. Mm-hmm. I can call the loan officer and I can say, tell me what's going on. And I can ask the hard questions that let me know what's really going on. And I don't have to trust the intermediary. I don't have to trust my agent to tell me what's going on and to be honest about it and to actually know what they're doing. So being able to talk to the buyers or the sellers, being able to talk to the other agents, being able to talk to the inspectors, the appraisers, the lenders, being able to get into the house whenever I want, being able to write my own offers on the schedule I want. I don't have to wait for an agent to say, yeah, I'm showing houses today, I'll write you up an offer tonight. And I find out that the deal went that afternoon because the agent couldn't get the offer in on time. So my biggest reason for somebody getting the real estate license is to give them total control of the deal.
Cool. That's good.
What is your best real estate investing advice or tip for the listeners?
I'm going to reiterate two things I said. One is what I just said, control. While you don't have to do everything yourself, we talked about systems and processes. My wife and I are huge fans of outsourcing. We have project managers, we have lenders we trust, we have inspectors we trust, contractors we trust, and we outsource absolutely as much as we can. Knowing that you have the control is immensely important. So I don't have to talk to the lender, but I like to know that I can. I don't have to negotiate with my contractors directly. I have a project manager that does it, but I like to know that I can. I don't necessarily ever want to talk to the buyers or the sellers for my properties, but I like to know that I can. Because when push comes to shove, there are going to be situations where having that ultimate control is really going to make the difference between success and failure. So that's the first. Mm-hmm. The second, I think I mentioned earlier, is always be ultra conservative. The first project we ever did was a complete disaster. We overpaid for the property. We ended up doing 2 rehabs because after the first rehab, we couldn't sell it. We had to have somebody move in on the lease option. They destroyed the property and we had to rehab it a second time. We sold it for about 20% less than what we thought we were going to sell it for. And this was after the market had improved. So basically we overpaid. We did twice the rehab we expected and we sold it for less than we should have. We still made a $2,000 profit on that deal.
And you learned a lot.
And we learned more on that one deal than I've learned in the 8 years since. But the reason we were able to not lose our shirts on that deal was because I went in assuming we're gonna overpay for the property. I went in assuming our budget for our rehab is going to be double what we expected. I went in assuming I'm not good at estimating resale of the property or the market's going to drop and we're going to sell it for a lot less. So all my numbers were tremendously conservative. And my wife probably said to me, make them more conservative. So ultimately, even though we made a mistake on every aspect of that first deal, we basically broke even. We actually made a little bit of money because we were so conservative. And that strategy has kind of stuck with us and helped us be successful through the next couple hundred deals we did. We've always been conservative. We've never chased a deal. We've never said, hey, we don't have enough deals. Let's take this deal because it's thin, but at least it'll give us something to do. We'd rather sit around and play with our kids than do a deal that's going to break even or lose us money. If you're
that's
not
so important. It really is. That's such important advice right there.
Yeah. So don't do something just to have something to do. Be conservative and only do deals that you really believe in.
Wow. No, I love that. While we're kind of tying into advice and things like that, what would you say your best habit for success is?
I'm going to go back to something else I said earlier. If you have to do something more than twice, figure out how to outsource it. Figure out how to create a system around it. Figure out how to create a process around it so that you minimize the amount of time you spend doing it. Write down how to do it, because once you write down how to do it, then it's a lot easier to outsource. Virtual assistants are awesome. If you're good at documenting what you need to do, it's amazing the types of things virtual assistants can help you with. Project managers, having somebody that you trust that you can outsource the day-to-day deals to, or the day-to-day tasks to. Here's something I like to say. People ask me all the time, how involved should I be in my project? Should I be doing the painting myself? Should I be managing the contractors every day? I like to remind people that the time is the most valuable thing that you have. If you're painting your house, what you're doing is you're saving yourself from having to hire a $15 an hour guy, which means you're basically making $15 an hour. If you're doing the plumbing in your house, you might be saving $40 an hour by not having to hire a plumber. So you're basically making $40 an hour. I'm not in this business to make $15 an hour or $25 an hour or $40 an hour. I'm in this business to make $500 an hour or $1,000 an hour. And in the flipping business, there's two ways to make $1,000 an hour. One, you need to be finding deals. So if I spend 30 hours on a project and I make $30,000 on that project, I just made $1,000 an hour. Two, finding money. So if I have the choice between painting a house and saving myself $15 an hour and going out and finding money, which allows me to buy another deal that's going to make me $30,000, I'd rather spend my time going out and finding the money so that I can do another deal and make $30,000 instead of the $15 an hour. So I'd like to tell people, focus on the $500 and $1,000 an hour tasks, and that's finding deals and finding money.
When you break it down like that for people, I think it makes it so crystal clear why you should not be cutting the grass or painting the house.
Exactly.
That's a great explanation. What has been the biggest mistake? I know you talked about the first deal. What's the biggest mistake that you've made since you've been in the real estate business?
So we've been lucky. We got in at the right time. It was hard to make too many mistakes at the beginning after that first deal and learning about the business. If anything, the biggest mistakes we've made have been, one, we should have done 100 times as many deals as we did. If we would have realized how good things were.
At the time, right? Yeah, hindsight, yeah.
But I'd have to say, other than that, the biggest mistakes we've made have been trusting people when we shouldn't have trusted people. Yeah. We've done some partnerships with people where I mentioned earlier where
Gino's been there.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier where somebody that doesn't know what they're doing says, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing. Let's work together and figure it out ourselves. That doesn't work. Yeah. So I've taken on partners in new aspects of real estate that I didn't know. They didn't know it either, thinking that we can learn together. We did learn together. We lost a lot of money and we learned together. So I'd say the biggest mistakes we've made have been not finding complementary partners. When you find a partner that's too much like yourself, basically all you're doing is splitting the money with somebody else that doesn't add any value. Gotcha. So when you're going to find a partner, find somebody that's good at the stuff you're not good at, and make sure you're good at the stuff he's not good at. So you're basically 1 + 1 = 3.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna split this one up a little bit. So you're an education guy. So one, what's your favorite book? And if it's a very common one, throw that out there. And two, if you have a book that people may have not have heard about before that you can recommend as well.
Sure. Again, I'm a big fan of running businesses as businesses and systems and processes. So I'm going to throw out the ones that I'm sure a lot of people throw out. The 4-Hour Workweek, I'm a big fan of, not because I think it's a great book, because I think it gives some motivation for doing less day-to-day tasks, but accomplishing the same amount. So I wouldn't tell the message, exactly. For the same reason, I would say Rich Dad, Poor Dad, great book. I think it gives absolutely zero actionable advice.
Yes, we agree.
But it'll get you in the mindset.
Assets, not liabilities.
Yes.
Exactly. So I tell people, read that book. I'm not a big fan of motivation, but if you need motivation, that's the book to read.
Come on, man. You're motivating me right now. Crank it up, baby.
So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 4-Hour Workweek. E-Myth is another one. E-Myth talks a lot about how you systematize your business. And basically the message there is work on your business, not in your business.
You remember that hotel that he went to? In the
Yes.
E-Myth? I want to go to that hotel. That sounds like a pleasurable experience, man. Like your mint was laid out perfectly on the bed. The fire was lit just to the correct temperature. I was like, man, I want to go there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had a writer come in for that. And then take that one step further. I'm going to mention a book that a lot of people haven't heard of, and it's called The Goal.
I've not heard of that one.
And while I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm gonna look up who the author of that book is. But the goal is basically another book that talks a lot. Eliyahu Goldratt, Israeli guy, wrote the book back in the 70s. One of my favorite books. It talks a lot about, again, it's on the whole theme of systems and processes. But he talks a lot about making your entire business efficient. He talks about bottlenecks and how when you try and scale a business, it goes back to your business is only as strong as the weakest link. And so he talks a lot about, and he goes into more of the mathy type stuff, and he's talking about large assembly line type businesses, but it very much applies to any business. And so it gets you thinking about what are the bottlenecks in your business? How do you clear those bottlenecks? And how do you scale your business so that there aren't things that are necessarily stopping you? A lot of times you don't realize why your business is slowing down. A perfect example, before I read this book, we were doing 4 or 5 flips at a time. This was back in 2013. We had started scaling the business and everything was running smoothly, but we just couldn't get things moving as quickly. Doing 4 projects would take us twice as long as doing 1 project. And it shouldn't be that way. Doing 4 projects at a time, each project should be able to be done in the same time frame as you do 1 project. But we found that as we tried to scale up, our time frame for each project was expanding. After reading this book, it really made me sit down and start analyzing the business. And what I realized was that we had 2 contractors that were our bottlenecks. We had a carpenter and a painter. You had
a people problem, it sounds like.
We had a people problem. Yeah. We were asking 2 contractors to do more work than they could physically handle. And we didn't realize at the time. It actually wasn't obvious because it looked like they were accomplishing all the work. But they weren't. And literally replacing 2 easy contractors, painters and carpenters. Those are kind of your commodity contractors out there. Just replacing, but adding on and bringing in a couple new painters and a couple new carpenters allowed us to get our time frames down by about 30%. And 30% in this business is absolutely huge. Mm-hmm. So really, the book is great. It's called The Goal. And it's great for helping you analyze your business, how to scale it more efficiently, and how to identify bottlenecks.
I got a very interesting question to ask you right now, because painters have been the bane of my existence. And we just do apartments, right? So for a guy that's been a flipper, I found that if you can pay them a little more, it doesn't help. If you pay them a little less, it doesn't help. What is going on with painters, and why is it so hard to deal with them? Do you have any advice for me today on how you've dealt with painters or done anything to make it go better?
Here's the problem. Anytime you have somebody doing a job that's pretty, let's call it commodity, but not anybody can paint. You don't want to live in a house that I painted.
Yeah.
But it's not rocket science. Somebody can learn to paint in a few weeks or a month or 2 and become a good painter. And for that reason, people that don't have real specialized skills, it's easy for them to become painters. So there's a lot of people out there that are like, I don't have anything else to do. The real estate industry is good. I want to be a contractor. I don't know how to do electrical work. I don't know how to do plumbing work. Hey, I'm going to become a painter. So you have a lot of people out there that just aren't that good. You add that with the fact that contractors...
They're all on drugs too. What? I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I'm not going to go there.
No, I'm saying the painters. I don't know why. I feel like every painter is on drugs. I'm like, come on, guys.
There's so many stereotypes in this business. Plumbers like to drink.
That's true.
Painters like to do drugs. It's crazy. And unfortunately, sometimes the stereotypes are true. The other problem with contractors in general is a lot of them don't know how to run a business. They might be really good at painting.
Technicians.
Right. They're not good at managing their time. They're not good at managing their money. They're not good at managing their schedule. And even though they might have the best intentions, when they tell you, yeah, I'll be there on Monday and we can finish this job by Tuesday, they probably really believe that. The problem is they're wrong. So what I found is a couple things. One, I like to use the same guys over and over. What I found is, and I found this all the way back into my corporate job a long time ago when I was managing people, people aren't good at estimating. They don't know how long things are going to take. They don't know how reliable they're going to be. But generally, people are pretty consistent on how far off they are. So if you find that you've used a painter twice and both times he's been off by 50% on his time and 30% on his costs, then moving forward, it's your responsibility to factor in an extra.
Absolutely.
People like to assume things are going to get better. Well, he was off the last 2 times I used him, but he's going to be right on schedule this time. And then we get mad when he's not on schedule this time.
When you know that he's going to be off. Yeah.
Exactly. That's our fault.
Yep.
If we don't use past performance as an indicator of future performance, that's on us. Use your contractors over and over. Don't expect them to be great. Expect them to be consistent and factor in that consistency as opposed to factoring in what they tell you. And then build your schedule around what you expect based on past performance, not based on what they're telling you. So that's one thing. It's always nice. I like to tell people in the flipping world, one of the big benefits to scaling is that it really helps with the contractor situation. If I have a painter and I tell him, hey, I'd like this done by Thursday, what incentive does he have to finish by Thursday? But if I have a painter and I tell him I'd like this done by Thursday because I got another project for you to start on Friday, there's a lot more chances.
Dangling that carrot out there. Yep.
Exactly. But you have to do more than dangle the carrot. You have to actually deliver.
Yep.
And what we've done with our contractors is we've let them know, look, we're really going to deliver. And if we tell them finish on Thursday because we've got a project on Friday, they finish on Thursday and that project's not ready on Friday, I'm going to find them somebody else to work for. I'm going to give them a bonus. I'm going to do something to make it up to them so that they know that when I'm telling them to finish on Thursday, it's not just lip service.
These guys don't want to go hunting jobs either. If you can keep feeding them and make their life easy, they're going to stick with you. Yeah.
Exactly. I've always said that. Excuse me. Sorry. I've always said that with contractors, the most expensive part of that business is marketing. It's finding people to do jobs for, giving them bids, estimating, all that stuff. They're going to spend half their time going out trying to get work. Mm-hmm. If you can give them 25% more work, they're now more efficient. Mm-hmm. So you really got to play that up with contractors. You got to let them know that, look, if you're going to do a good job with me, not only am I going to give you more work, I'm going to go talk to every investor friend I have, and I'm going to make sure he gives you work or she gives you work. And then you actually have to do that. And my contractors know that I'm going to have slow periods. I'm going to have time where I might not have a project for them for 2 months, but I'm going to spend those 2 months trying to get them work somewhere else. I'm going to do everything I can to get them work. So they know they're not going to have to go out and answer the phone or give an estimate that they're probably not going to get the job for. And those are the kinds of things that my contractors, and I think all contractors, appreciate.
Huge benefit that you add to those folks. It's really good. What's been the best flip and why? What's been the granddaddy here?
So I'd say 2. The first is obviously the first project we ever did. Everything went wrong. We overpaid. We paid too much for rehab, 2 rehabs. We sold it for less than we wanted. We did a lease option for about 2 years in between the first rehab and the second rehab, where we didn't vet the tenants very well. We struggled to get them to pay. They ended up leaving in the middle of the night. It was horrible. But that's where you learn. And the projects you learn from are always the most valuable. Especially if you're actually going to learn. I know people that make this. We don't make the same mistakes twice. We make a lot of mistakes. We make probably every mistake, but we don't make the same mistake twice. And so if you make a lot of mistakes on a project, hopefully you've learned a lot on that project, and those are a lot of mistakes you're not going to make in the future. So for us, the first project was the biggest. Second was probably the first new construction that we did for the same reason. So new construction is hard. Lot of nuances, lots of scheduling challenges, lots of things that you learn as you go through, and you realize, wow, this thing took 9 months. It could have taken 4 months, but we didn't know all this stuff. So the first new construction project we did, again, we made a ton of mistakes, but the project was valuable for that very reason. We made the mistakes. We knew what not to do on future projects, and basically making all the mistakes at once helped us succeed in all future projects. So the first deal we ever did and then the first new construction we ever did were probably the 2 best learning experiences.
Cool. You did mention that you're into some kind of buy and hold, apartments, rentals, something. What's going on with that? What are you doing there?
So right now we're just doing single family houses. Mm-hmm. We've bought rentals since we started this, and my wife and I have had this little conflict for the last 8 years. I buy rentals, and then the second a tenant moves out, I get frustrated and say I can't deal with this, and I sell it. My wife kicks me and tells me, why'd you sell that? We need to keep everything. And so I look back, and of course my wife's right about everything. We should have kept every rental we ever bought. Unfortunately, we didn't, but we've learned from that mistake. And now we're building up a rental portfolio here in Maryland. We're starting to buy some deals in upstate New York, some rental deals in upstate New York.
Oh, where are you buying in New York?
Buffalo area.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm a Bills fan, so hey.
Excellent. Yeah, my in-laws, my wife's whole family is up in Buffalo.
Gotcha. Cool.
So we have some family up there. So we're building a single family portfolio. We've been looking for a big multifamily deal for the last, I guess, year and a half. So we'd love to buy something 100, 200 units. We've been looking all over the country. It's real tough these days. I'm guessing you guys have a lot of experience and would probably do a lot better at it than I am. But for somebody trying to break into the...
Well, you gotta establish the relationships with the brokers, because a lot of the stuff, and everyone's trying to buy in the Southeast right now, and the biggest thing is, these the brokers that are getting the deal, they're not putting it out there, so you got to be on their list. So if you don't have that established relationship, you're never going to see the deal, and then you're just going to see that it's sold.
Exactly. So, and that's fantastic advice. I tell people that in the flipping world, and I have to realize that that's not true just in the flipping world. That's true everywhere.
You need to establish those relationships with the brokers that are getting the deals.
Yep. So we're hopefully going to do some bigger stuff in the near future. Something 25 to 100 units, something.
Nice.
In the near future. We're still making offers and we're still looking for stuff. But right now we're kind of focusing on the single family portfolio.
Gotcha. I took a bunch of notes, and because there's about 3 or 4 points that I just absolutely loved that you said. And the first, right off the bat, you said ignorance is bliss. And I'm thinking, for the folks out there that want to get in the game, get some education, but then get started. You got to get out there and just do it, or it's never going to happen for you. And I think that was like really, really timely advice.
Let me point out the thing I've noticed most in this business, and this is true across the board. I have never met a real estate investor who has only done one deal. I meet tons of real estate investors who've never done any deals, and I meet tons of real estate investors who do a lot of deals.
Yeah.
No real estate investors do one deal, because if you do that first deal, you realize how easy it is.
You just got an education.
Exactly. You're going to do more. So I know so many people say, this is so hard. If doing one deal is this hard, I don't want to do it. No, you realize after
I really
that
like
first.
that.
Yeah. So
That's a great point.
It's true. Go around and ask. You're not going to find any real estate investors who have done just one deal.
Very good. It's always a good time to get into real estate, because the market's going up and down in some niche, and I think that was a really interesting point that you made there as well. I never thought about it like that, and I wrote that down because I thought that was great.
Yeah. In the flipping world, I mean, like I said, we did REOs for 5 years, and then we had to move towards short sales, because that was the big thing.
Yeah.
And then we had to move towards new construction and doing bigger additions and things. And
flow with the market, yeah.
Ebb and flow of the market. Always be involved in what's going on. And now we're starting to get into rentals and buy and holds, because I see that's where the real opportunity is for the next couple of years. So for me, it's really knowing what your market's doing and taking the steps, hopefully in advance, to make sure that you're doing the thing that's going to be most complementary with your market.
And you said you got into real estate to create a life. And the people that we speak to that are really successful, Gino did this, myself, is that you're getting out there because you understand that time is the most valuable resource that's out there, and you're doing it because you don't want to be, getting up in the morning and just under the corporate whip, I got to work till 9 o'clock tonight and do it at someone else's direction. You're creating wealth for yourself. You may work a 16-hour day, but you're doing it for yourself, and you're creating wealth for your family. It's different than if you're just getting a paycheck. When you get that mentality down, you understand that. I think that's going to really change a lot of people's lives.
Exactly. I spent a long time in Silicon Valley dealing with the tech industry and people starting tech businesses, and we all know the typical for the wishful tech story, which is you start a tech company, you get lots of venture funding, you go IPO or you sell it and you cash out big.
Yep.
And that's one way to run a business. And I respect anybody that can do that. But what a lot of people don't realize is there's another type of business called a lifestyle business.
Yep.
And that's what we're looking to build. We're looking to build a business that allows us to live the lifestyle. We may never cash out for $50 million. We may never take venture capital and raise $20 million to scale the business. But what we're building is a business that allows us to live the lifestyle that we want to live, which is being able to raise a family, being there to put our kids on the bus every day, to take our kids off the bus every day, never having to miss a doctor appointment or a school recital, and then still making a good income far into the future. For us, that's the type of business we're trying to build, and that's what real estate allows us to do.
Well, what you're defining basically is the guy who's a traffic fighter. I heard that term in a book. I think in 10 Pillars of Wealth. Basically, everyone gets in a car at 7:30 in the morning and they fight traffic, get to work, and then they're not annoyed enough with their life to make that change, and they don't make that conscious awareness that we had and that you had. To say to themselves, why do I have to do this? Why everyone's doing this? Why should I have to fight that traffic? And I finally got fed up with it. He got fed up with it, and you got fed up with it. And to have that awareness to say, let me take a step back, let me reevaluate my life, let me see what I want. And I think, how does it go? Your lifestyle should be take care of your business. Your business should be funding your lifestyle. Your lifestyle should be funding your business. And I think those words are so profound. And it's only 6 or 7 words there, but if you really look at it that way, I love that. I homeschool my kids in the morning. So when we get up in the morning, I have an hour in the morning where I could spend with them, and then they come home at night. We all hang out after dinner at nighttime. I couldn't do that when I was at the restaurant business. I did it in the morning, but my whole night, my 10, 11 hours, I was fighting traffic in the spot. I was tied to that. So I want to get people motivated right now at the end of this call. Get busy living or get busy dying. Figure out what you want to do with your life and get it done. No, because this hits me hard. I'm 46 years old, and I'm glad that I figured it out. I wanted to write a note to myself at 30 to say to myself, listen, I've done great. My family life, everything's great. My whole thing with the financial life, I wish I would have been able to create more value for people like I'm doing now in these last 3 or 4 years. When you're 30 years old, you think about the paycheck, you think about the money, you think about raising the capital. You don't think about your whole personal development, what you can bring to other people. You always think about getting and not giving. And if you can do that when you're younger, and when you're creating a business like you're creating and a platform to reach people, that's where you succeed in life, and that's where you're going to start blowing up in life.
Absolutely. My biggest regret is I didn't do exactly what I did 20 years sooner.
It makes 2 of us, bro.
I'm going to make a little bit of a joke right now, and you were talking about control, and I love that. And we may not be in total control of the ship, but at least our wives are, right? Exactly. And it's not some CEO. Exactly. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
You said that if you're doing something more than twice, you're systematizing it. Raise the roof. Love that. Working on that every day myself. And you mentioned the book, The Goal. We'll check that out. I like that because it's something that we've experienced where you're trying to grow, but someone's giving you pushback and you can't figure out what it is. So sometimes it's identifying the people or the person or the thing that's going on and clearing that bottleneck and enabling yourself to move forward. That was pretty cool. So what about where are you at online? You on Snapchat? You on Twitter? What's going on with the social universe out there?
So it's funny. I'm tremendously introverted. I'm not a big sales or marketing guy, so I don't have a tremendous online presence. I have a website called 123 Flip. Haven't kept it up as much as I'd like, but basically what we did on that was kind of how I got started in this business. Back in 2008 before we bought our first house, I documented every nitty-gritty aspect of our business. If you go on there, you can see basically our first 50 flips. Cool. And that includes all of our financials down to the penny. You can see what we spent on every rehab. You can see what we spent like to buy properties, to sell properties. You can see pictures of all the properties, including articles of all the mistakes we made on every property. So basically, for somebody starting out...
Sounds like a tremendous value for people. That's great.
It was great to document it. It really helped us.
Yeah.
It's hard writing about your mistakes. It's hard writing about all the things you do wrong.
Yeah.
But the great thing is when you have to document, when you have to hold yourself accountable, it really forces you or really incentivizes you not to make the same mistakes twice. So 123flip.com. I also have a couple books out there. So I have a book called The Book on Flipping Houses. And you can find that.
Is that the Bigger Pockets book?
That's the Bigger Pockets book.
Gotcha.
You can find it on biggerpockets.com. You can also find it on Amazon.
Gotcha.
And I also have another book called the book on estimating rehab costs. So for anybody that's looking for a good methodology for how to
great book. And we can get all these on Amazon, right?
Get them all on Amazon. They've both been Amazon bestsellers for the last 2.5 years, so very proud of them.
That's great.
Anything else?
That's it.
Just making it happen, kicking down doors. I don't know if we can read it. We're making it happen right there. We got the new Make It Happen pens coming out, so we're doing it. Listen,
so this was great, guys.
It was great. Thanks so much for your time. And listen, maybe we'll do it again in the future. I think you're a really interesting guy, and you have a great story. So thanks for your time.
And Jay, if you ever need help with the multis, come to us. We're going to bring you over to the dark side.
Oh,
We're on the dark side, so come on over to us.
So I was going to suggest that to you. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys.
Take care. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, that's going to do it for today. If you found value in this episode, please don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes. We really appreciate it. Also, if you'd like to speak with us, we are now doing 2 30-minute strategy sessions every Friday. You can sign up for these at jakeandgino.com. This has been another episode of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, the only show that teaches that it's education times action that equals success. I'm Jake, and he's Gino. Over and out.
We trust that you enjoy the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast. Visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. See you next time when Jake and Gino share more of their investing secrets with you.